Welcome to Sleep Better Podcast, where every story is written specifically to help you sleep better. For more information about our podcast and natural sleep products, please visit our website, deepbearsleep.com. We've also added specifically selected sleep music after the story ends. If all goes well, you will not hear the end of the story because you will be in a deep and restful sleep by then. Now, let's take a deep breath, relax your body, and let's begin.
Martha's world was small, yet it brimmed with dreams that stretched far beyond the high walls of St. Mary's Orphanage. Nestled in a quiet town, the orphanage was both her refuge and her universe since she was 3 years old. With no memory of her parents, the nuns and the other children had become her family, her world defined by the simple red brick building surrounded by sprawling oak trees. Every morning began with the ringing of the old church bell, its chimes echoing through the corridors. Martha, along with the other children, would shuffle sleepily into the dining hall, where Sister Agnes greeted them with a warm smile and a stern reminder to say their prayers. Breakfast was always simple, often porridge with a side of toast. But Martha didn't mind. She found comfort in the routine, in the predictability of life at St. Mary's. After breakfast, the children attended classes. Martha excelled in her studies, especially in literature and history. Her imagination soared with tales of distant lands and heroic adventures. During recess, while other children played tag or hide-and-seek in the orphanage's modest yard, Martha often found herself under the shade of an oak tree, lost in a book or daydreaming about a life beyond the orphanage walls. Afternoons were for chores and more lessons, but Martha always looked forward to the evenings. That was when Sister Agnes would read stories to the children. Martha would sit at her feet, eyes wide with wonder, hanging on to every word. It was during these story sessions that Martha's dreams took shape. She yearned for a life full of adventure and love, a life where she could be the heroine of her own story. Despite her dreams, Martha never let her longing for a different life overshadow her kindness and compassion. She was a friend to all in the orphanage, always ready with a comforting word or a helping hand. Her resilience was evident in her ability to find joy in the small things, a shared joke with a friend, the beauty of a sunset, or the satisfaction of a well-done chore. But as she grew older, Martha's longing for a sense of belonging intensified. She often found herself gazing out of her bedroom window at night, staring at the stars, wondering if somewhere out there was a place where she truly fit in. She dreamed of finding a family, of finding love, and of finding a purpose that was uniquely hers. Martha's life at St. Mary's was simple, yet it was filled with the richness of dreams and the warmth of a community. It was a life that shaped her into a resilient, kind-hearted young woman, full of hope and longing for a world she had yet to discover. And as each day passed, her dreams continued to grow, fueling her belief that somewhere beyond the orphanage's gates, there was a place where she truly belonged. Martha's journey took a pivotal turn on a crisp autumn morning at the city hospital where she had been working as a nurse for the past 2 years. The hospital, a bustling hub of healing and hope, was a world away from the quiet solitude of St. Mary's Orphanage. Here, Martha found her purpose tending to patients with a gentle touch and a compassionate heart. It was in this world of sterile corridors and hushed conversations that she first encountered Mark Williams. Mark was unlike anyone Martha had ever met. He was there to visit his father, a prominent businessman admitted for a minor surgery. Martha noticed him immediately. His confident demeanor and polished appearance stood in stark contrast to the weary, anxious faces that usually filled the hospital's visiting rooms. He moved with an ease that spoke of a life lived in comfort, a life far removed from the simplicity of Martha's own. Their first interaction was brief, but memorable. Mark had lost his way in the labyrinthine hospital and asked Martha for directions. Her initial response was one of hesitation, not just because of the flutter of nerves she felt in his presence, but also because of the invisible yet palpable divide between their worlds. But as she guided him to his destination, something shifted within her. His gratitude was genuine, his smile warm, and in that moment, Martha felt a connection, a curiosity about this man who seemed so different from her. In the days that followed, their paths crossed more frequently. Mark made a point of seeking Martha out, thanking her for her help, asking about her day, and showing a genuine interest in her thoughts and feelings. Martha was courteous at first, aware of the boundaries that her upbringing and current status as a nurse imposed. Yet, she couldn't deny the growing attraction she felt towards him, nor the way her heart leapt whenever she saw him. Mark's visits became the highlight of her day, a bright spot in the demanding routine of her work. Their conversations revealed Mark's kind nature and his own sense of being slightly out of place in the affluent world he was born into. He talked about his work in city administration, his hopes for making a real difference in the community, and his love for art and literature, interests that resonated deeply with Martha. As Martha got to know Mark, she found herself drawn into a world that was both exciting and intimidating. His life was a tapestry of privilege and opportunity, so different from the simplicity of her own experiences. There was a part of her that longed to step into that world, to explore the possibilities it offered. Yet another part of her feared losing herself, her values, and the life she had known and cherished. Martha stood at the cusp of a new adventure, her heart torn between the comfort of her familiar world and the allure of the unknown. Mark represented a path she never imagined she could walk, a doorway to a life full of possibilities and challenges. As she grappled with these mixed emotions, Martha knew one thing for certain: her life was about to change in ways she could never have predicted. As Martha's relationship with Mark blossomed, so too did her apprehension. The more she learned about his world, a world of galas, high society, and affluent acquaintances, the more she felt like a bird perched on the edge of a dauntingly vast ocean. The thought of immersing herself in Mark's lifestyle was both exhilarating and terrifying. Their dates were a glimpse into a life so starkly different from her own. They dined at restaurants where the silverware was polished to a mirror sheen, and the waitstaff moved with practiced precision. Mark took her to art galleries and theater shows, worlds away from the simple joys and entertainments of her orphanage upbringing. While she enjoyed these experiences, they left her feeling like an actor in a play, reciting lines in a role she wasn't sure she was meant to play. Martha's concerns went beyond the social sphere. She feared losing her identity, the very essence of who she was. The values and experiences that had shaped her seemed inconsequential in the grandeur of Mark's world. Would her compassionate nature and her simple dreams still hold value amidst the opulence and ambition of high society? These questions swirled in her mind, casting a shadow over the bright future Mark offered. Moreover, Martha valued her independence fiercely. She had built a life for herself as a nurse, a life where she made a difference in the lives of others. The thought of leaving her job, her patience, and the sense of purpose it gave her was unsettling. Mark, in his gentle and understanding way, assured her she wouldn't have to give up her career, but Martha knew that stepping into his world would inevitably mean stepping back from her own. Their relationship, though filled with affection and mutual respect, reached an impasse. Mark sensed her hesitation and offered her time and space, but Martha's inner conflict only deepened. In her heart, she yearned to be with him, to explore the love that was blossoming between them. Yet the fear of losing herself, of becoming submerged in a world where she might never truly belong, held her back. Conversations with Sister Agnes, who had become a confidant over the years, only underscored her dilemma. The wise nun spoke of the courage it takes to embrace change, but also the importance of staying true to oneself. These talks left Martha more conflicted than ever. Torn between the comfort of her familiar world and the unknown possibilities of a life with Mark, Martha grappled with a decision that would define her future. She stood at a crossroads, facing a choice that was as much about her own identity as it was about her relationship with Mark. It was a choice between the safety of the life she knew and the risk of a love that promised a journey into a world vastly different from her own. In the midst of her turmoil, Martha found an unexpected source of wisdom and guidance in Evelyn, an older nurse at the hospital. Evelyn, with her silver hair and lines that spoke of a life richly lived, had a serenity about her that Martha had always admired. When Martha confided in Evelyn about her relationship with Mark and the fears that came with it, Evelyn listened with a kind, understanding ear. Evelyn, it turned out, had walked a similar path. She shared her story with Martha, a tale of a young nurse who fell in love with a man from a world very different from her own. Evelyn spoke of the challenges she faced, the judgments and expectations, and the struggle to remain true to herself amidst it all. But she also spoke of the love that had blossomed from that union, a love that transcended social boundaries and personal insecurities. "Love doesn't ask you to lose yourself, dear," Evelyn said softly, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of her years. "It invites you to grow, to expand in ways you never thought possible. But that growth should never come at the cost of your essence, your core." These conversations became a beacon for Martha. Evelyn's experiences and insights gave her a new perspective. She began to see that her relationship with Mark wasn't just about adapting to his world. It was also about him embracing hers. Love, as Evelyn described, was a meeting of worlds, not the surrender of one to the other. Evelyn encouraged Martha to communicate her fears and hopes to Mark openly. "Honesty," she said, "is the bridge that connects different worlds. Walk it with courage and with an open heart." Martha took this advice to heart, finding strength in Evelyn's words. Under Evelyn's mentorship, Martha started to view her relationship with Mark not as a threat to her identity, but as an opportunity to build something new and beautiful together. She learned that maintaining her independence and values was not only possible, but essential for a healthy relationship. Evelyn's stories also highlighted the importance of compromise, understanding, and mutual respect. She taught Martha that while love might require adjustments, it should never demand the sacrifice of one's true self. This realization was a turning point for Martha. She began to approach her relationship with Mark with newfound confidence and a deeper understanding of what she needed and what she could give. The mentorship and friendship that Evelyn provided were invaluable to Martha. They were a guiding light as she navigated her way through the complexities of her heart. With each story, each piece of advice, Martha felt herself growing, not just in confidence, but in her understanding of what it meant to love and be loved in return. Martha's journey reached a pivotal moment when Mark, in a setting as enchanting as a scene from one of her beloved storybooks, asked her to marry him. It was in the blooming garden of a quaint, secluded restaurant, under a sky painted with the hues of sunset. The proposal was heartfelt, filled with promises of love and partnership. Martha, with emotions swirling like leaves in an autumn breeze, said, "Yes." She was stepping not just into Mark's arms, but also into an entirely new world. The engagement was a whirlwind of excitement and daunting new experiences. Martha found herself thrust into a sphere that was both dazzling and disorienting. The Williams family, though polite, were embodiments of the affluent society Martha had only glimpsed from afar. Their mansion, a sprawling estate with manicured lawns and rooms filled with antiques, was a far cry from the simple, cozy spaces of St. Mary's orphanage and her modest apartment. Martha's first encounters with the Williams family were a study in contrasts. Victoria Williams, Mark's mother, was gracious yet reserved, her mannerisms reflecting the nuances of high society. Martha felt out of place, her every move seeming clumsy in comparison to the refined poise of the Williams. Dinners were elaborate affairs, with conversations that often revolved around business, politics, and social events, topics Martha was unaccustomed to. Despite the initial cultural shock, Martha's commitment to Mark and their future together remained steadfast. She navigated these early interactions with a mix of bravery and vulnerability. Each smile, each polite conversation, was a step in building the bridge between her world and theirs. Mark stood by her side, a constant source of support, gently guiding her through the complexities of his family dynamics and social expectations. Martha's resilience was tested in these early days. She often felt like an imposter in a world that wasn't hers, struggling to find her footing. Yet she reminded herself of Evelyn's words about growth and the importance of staying true to oneself. She started to bring elements of her world into theirs, sharing stories from her work, talking about her passions, and subtly infusing her warmth and simplicity into their gatherings. In this new phase of her life, Martha's courage was her beacon. She was crossing the threshold, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, into a life intertwined with Mark's. It was a journey marked with challenges, but also with the promise of love and a shared future. Martha was charting a course through uncharted waters, holding on to her identity while embracing the new world she was becoming a part of. This step into Mark's world was not just a crossing of a threshold. It was the beginning of a transformation, a journey towards a new life that was theirs together. In the tapestry of Martha's new life, the threads of challenge and discovery were interwoven with those of love and resilience. As she navigated the intricate social landscape of the Williams family, Martha faced tests that stretched her beyond the confines of her former world, revealing her adaptability and strength. The Williams' social calendar was a flurry of events, charity galas, exclusive dinners, and high-profile gatherings. Each occasion was a test for Martha. She found herself amidst a sea of faces, many welcoming but some masked with polite indifference or veiled curiosity. Martha, with her natural grace and warmth, slowly learned to navigate these social waters. She listened more than she spoke, observed the nuances of conversation, and gradually found her voice among the chatter of the elite. One of her first significant challenges came during a charity ball hosted by the Williams. Dressed in a gown that Mark had lovingly chosen, Martha felt like a character out of a fairy tale. But the enchantment of the evening was soon marred by a confrontation with Victoria. In a moment of unguarded candor, Victoria expressed her concerns about Martha's fit into their family and society. The words stung, but Martha, fortified by her love for Mark and her own self-worth, responded with quiet dignity. This encounter was a turning point, marking Martha's growing confidence in her new role. However, not all was a struggle in this new world. Martha found unexpected allies, individuals who, like her, were somewhat on the periphery of the Williams circle. There was Alice, a cousin of Mark's, who had married into the family and shared Martha's love for literature. Alice became a confidant, offering insights into the family dynamics and the unspoken rules of high society. Then there was James, a longtime friend of Mark's, whose down-to-earth demeanor and easy laughter made Martha feel at ease. These friendships were oases in the desert of social complexity, providing Martha with support and a sense of belonging. As Martha's understanding of this new world grew, so did her ability to discern true intentions. She learned to navigate conversations with a blend of honesty and tact, earning the respect of many within the Williams circle. Her kindness and genuine interest in others slowly broke down barriers, and she found herself forming connections with those she had once viewed as adversaries. Martha's adaptability was most evident in how she integrated her past into her present. She organized a charity event for the hospital where she worked, bringing together the worlds of healthcare and high society. The event was a success, not just in its fundraising but in showcasing Martha's passion and capability. It was a moment of triumph, a testament to her ability to create a harmonious blend of her old and new lives. Yet, challenges persisted. Martha sometimes felt the pangs of being an outsider, the subtle reminders of her different background. There were moments of loneliness and doubt, times when she questioned her place in this affluent world. But these feelings were counterbalanced by her growing bond with Mark and the life they were building together. Through each test, each encounter, Martha's journey was one of learning and growth. She faced each challenge with a blend of courage and humility, finding strength in her love for Mark and in the person she was becoming. As she navigated this complex maze of social norms and relationships, Martha was not just surviving, she was thriving, carving out a place for herself in a world that was becoming more her own with each passing day. On the eve of her wedding, Martha found herself enveloped in a quiet, contemplative solitude. The grandeur of the Williams estate, now adorned with flowers and lights for the morrow's celebration, felt miles away as she sat alone in her room. This was her moment of introspection, a sacred pause before the threshold of a profound life change. The journey to this point had been a tapestry of emotions and experiences. Martha reflected on the young girl she once was in the orphanage, dreaming of a world beyond its walls. That girl, filled with hopes and dreams, seemed both near and distant. Now, on the cusp of marrying Mark, she was about to step into a life that was once just a distant fantasy. The weight of this transformation was both exhilarating and daunting. In the quiet of her room, Martha's thoughts wandered to her deepest fears. She feared losing herself in the enormity of the Williamses' world, of becoming a mere accessory in their opulent life. There was also the fear of not being enough, of failing to meet the expectations that came with being Mark's wife. These fears had been her constant companions, shadows amid the light of her love for Mark. However, amidst these vulnerabilities, there was a resilient determination within Martha. She had navigated the complexities of a world so different from her own, and had found strength and confidence she never knew she had. She had faced challenges with grace and had earned a place in the hearts of those who had once seemed unreachable. Later that evening, Martha and Mark shared a quiet moment away from the pre-wedding bustle. In the soft glow of the moonlight, they spoke of their future. Martha voiced her fears and aspirations, her voice a blend of vulnerability and strength. Mark listened, his eyes reflecting his deep love and understanding. He reassured her, not with empty promises, but with a commitment to stand by her, to face challenges together, and to build a life that honored both their worlds. This conversation was a balm to Martha's soul. It was a reminder of why she was taking this step, not just for the love they shared, but for the partnership they promised each other. Mark's words were a reinforcement of her belief that together they could forge a new path, one that embraced their differences and built on their strengths. As Martha lay in bed that night, the fears that had once loomed large seemed to diminish in the face of her love for Mark and her belief in their future. She realized that her journey to this point had been her own unique passage through trials and triumphs. The girl from the orphanage was now a woman about to embark on a new chapter, one filled with love, challenges, and endless possibilities. The eve of her wedding was not just a confrontation with her fears. It was a celebration of her journey, her growth, and the life she was about to begin with Mark. It was the approach to the inmost cave, the precipice of a new and exciting chapter in her story. Martha's wedding day dawned bright and clear, a perfect backdrop for the beginning of her new life with Mark. The Williams estate was a flurry of activity, with florists, caterers, and decorators transforming the grounds into a scene from a fairy tale. Amidst the hustle, Martha prepared for the ceremony, her heart a blend of excitement and nerves. Dressed in a stunning gown that accentuated her grace, Martha was the epitome of a radiant bride. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman who had journeyed far from the humble halls of St. Mary's orphanage. Yet, as she looked at herself, Martha felt a twinge of apprehension. Today, she was not just marrying Mark. She was officially stepping into the Williams world, a world that still felt foreign and intimidating. The ceremony was beautiful, with friends and family gathered to witness the union of Martha and Mark. As they exchanged vows, Martha's heart swelled with love and hope. Mark's words were a promise of a future filled with respect, love, and partnership. For a moment, Martha felt a sense of complete belonging. However, the reception that followed brought Martha's lingering fears to the surface. The grand hall was filled with guests, many from Mark's side, who were pillars of society. Martha moved among them, a smile on her face, but her heart heavy with the weight of expectation. It was during a brief moment of respite that Martha's greatest challenge unfolded. Stepping away from the crowd for a moment of solitude, she inadvertently overheard a conversation between Victoria and a group of her friends. Victoria's words were laced with doubt and disparagement. She questioned Martha's suitability for Mark and their family, casting aspersions on her background and upbringing. The words struck Martha like a physical blow. Her worst fears, the doubts she had fought so hard to overcome, were laid bare in Victoria's cutting remarks. The emotional turmoil was overwhelming, a maelstrom of hurt, anger, and humiliation. For a moment, Martha felt a sense of crisis, a questioning of her identity and place in this new world. Battling a surge of tears, Martha excused herself from the reception. She needed space, a moment to gather her thoughts and emotions. In the solitude of the estate's gardens, under the canopy of ancient trees, Martha allowed herself to feel the full extent of her hurt. It was a moment of profound vulnerability, a confrontation with the deepest fears she had harbored about her place in Mark's life. Yet, as she sat there, the gentle breeze drying her tears, Martha's thoughts turned to her journey. She thought of the young girl she once was, the challenges she had faced, and the strength she had found within herself. She remembered Evelyn's words about growth and staying true to oneself. She recalled Mark's vows, his promise of partnership and support. Martha realized that this ordeal, painful as it was not just a test of her place in the Williams family, but a test of her own resolve and identity. She understood that her worth was not defined by Victoria's opinions or the societal standards of the Williams world. Her worth came from her resilience, her kindness, and the love she shared with Mark. With newfound resolve, Martha stood up. She was not the orphan girl anymore, nor was she a mere appendage to the Williams family. She was Martha, Mark's partner, a woman with her own strengths and values. She decided that she would not let Victoria's words diminish her or the joy of her wedding day. Returning to the reception, Martha's demeanor was calm but resolute. She greeted guests with a genuine smile, her grace and warmth undiminished by the ordeal she had just faced. In that moment, Martha was not just overcoming a challenge. She was reclaiming her identity and her place in her new life. Mark, sensing a change in Martha, took her aside. In his eyes, Martha saw concern and love. She shared with him what she had overheard, and Mark's response was one of unwavering support and understanding. He reassured her of her invaluable place in his life and his family, not in spite of her background, but because of the person she was. The ordeal of the wedding day, though fraught with emotional turbulence, became a defining moment for Martha. It was a testament to her emotional strength, a trial that fortified her sense of self and her commitment to her new life with Mark. Martha's journey through this challenge left her stronger, more confident, and more assured of her place in the world she had chosen to be a part of. In the aftermath of the emotional storm she had weathered, Martha experienced a profound moment of clarity and empowerment. As she walked back to the reception, the weight of Victoria's words began to lift, replaced by an inner strength that surged through her. Martha realized that she had crossed a significant threshold in her life, not just as Mark's partner, but as an individual with her own worth and identity. This realization was her reward, hard-earned and deeply empowering. Martha understood that the respect and acceptance she sought from others could only come from the respect and acceptance she granted herself. Her value wasn't contingent on the approval of the Williams family or the high society she had married into. It was rooted in her resilience, her compassion, and the unique journey that had shaped her. Returning to the festive hall, Martha carried herself with a newfound poise. Her steps were steadier, her smile brighter, a reflection of the self-respect she had embraced. She interacted with the guests, not as an outsider trying to fit in, but as herself, confident, kind, and genuine. Mark noticed the change in Martha immediately. He saw in her not just the woman he loved, but a partner, equal in strength and character. Their conversation earlier had not only deepened their bond, but had also brought a new level of understanding and appreciation for each other's journeys and struggles. Martha's decision to return to the wedding was symbolic of her seizing control of her narrative. She was no longer the passive recipient of her circumstances, but an active participant in shaping her life and her role within the Williams family. This was not a denial of the challenges that lay ahead, but an acknowledgement of her ability to face them with grace and determination. The rest of the evening was a celebration in the truest sense. Martha's joy was not dimmed by the shadows of doubt and insecurity. Instead, it shone brighter, fueled by her recognition of her own worth. She danced with Mark, their steps in perfect harmony, a physical manifestation of their united front against any challenge that might come their way. As the night drew to a close, Martha looked back at the day, not just as her wedding, but as a pivotal point in her life. She had faced her greatest fears, had stood on the brink of despair, and had emerged stronger and more assured. This newfound self-respect and understanding of her role in both her and Mark's lives were not just her reward. They were her armor, and her strength for the journey ahead. Martha's story was no longer just a tale of an orphan girl finding love. It was a narrative of empowerment, of a woman who, through love and trials, had discovered her own voice and place in the world. The wedding day, with all its trials and triumphs, was just the beginning of Martha's true journey. A journey of self-discovery, partnership, and a life lived with authenticity and courage. Martha's return to the wedding reception marked not just a physical re-entry, but a symbolic journey back to her new life with Mark, now infused with a profound sense of self-awareness and acceptance. The reception hall, still buzzing with the energy of celebration, welcomed her back, but the woman who stepped in was markedly different. This Martha was imbued with a quiet confidence, a serene acceptance of both her past and her future. As she mingled with the guests, her interactions were colored with a new vibrancy. Conversations that had once seemed daunting now flowed more naturally. She found herself sharing anecdotes from her life at the orphanage and her work at the hospital with a sense of pride. There was no longer a need to hide or diminish her past. Instead, Martha wove it into the fabric of her new identity, creating a rich tapestry that was uniquely hers. Martha's renewed sense of self was evident in the way she navigated the reception. She moved through the crowd with a grace that was not just physical, but emanated from her inner certainty. Her laughter was more genuine, her smiles more radiant. Guests who had once seemed intimidating now engaged with her in conversations that were marked by mutual respect and interest. Mark watched Martha with a sense of awe and admiration. Seeing her in this new light, he realized the depth of the journey she had undertaken. Their reconciliation was not marked by grand gestures, but through quiet exchanges of glances and touches, a language of love and understanding that they had developed together. Mark's support had been unwavering, but now there was a deeper recognition of Martha's strength and resilience. This integration of her old and new selves was not a seamless process. There were moments of doubt and hesitation. But Martha approached these with a newfound resilience. She understood that her acceptance of her new life did not mean the erasure of her past. Instead, it meant honoring her journey, the experiences that had shaped her, and using them as a foundation upon which to build her future with Mark. As the evening progressed, Martha realized that her road back to the wedding was also a journey towards self-integration. She was no longer just the orphan girl or the nurse, nor was she simply Mrs. Williams. She was Martha, a composite of all these identities, each enriching the other. The reception ended on a note of joy and celebration, but for Martha, it signified something more profound. It was a reaffirmation of her journey, a celebration of her growth, and an acknowledgement of her role in this new chapter of her life. Martha had not only found her place beside Mark, but had also carved out a space where her past and present coexisted in harmony. The road back to the wedding was, in many ways, a road forward to a life of shared experiences, challenges, and love. The days following Martha and Mark's wedding were a time of quiet transformation for Martha. Emboldened by the revelations and growth she had experienced, she knew there was one crucial step she needed to take, a confrontation with Victoria that would redefine her place within the Williams family. The opportunity presented itself one afternoon in the Williams estate's lush gardens. Victoria, always impeccable in her appearance, was tending to her roses, a hobby she took great pride in. Martha approached her with a mixture of determination and respect. This was not about conflict. It was about setting the foundations for their future relationship. Victoria, sensing the seriousness in Martha's demeanor, turned to face her. There was a moment of silence, a pause that seemed to acknowledge the significance of what was about to unfold. "Victoria, "I want to talk about the other day, about what you said," Martha began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know my background is different from what you envisioned for Mark, but I want you to know that I love him, and I am committed to being a partner to him in every sense." Victoria listened, her expression unreadable. Martha continued, "I respect this family's traditions and values, but I also bring my own to this marriage. I'm not here to take anything away. I'm here to add, to grow, and to build something new with Mark." The air was charged with a palpable tension as Martha spoke her truth. Mark, who had been a silent supporter by her side, gently squeezed her hand, a silent symbol of his unwavering support. Victoria, who had been listening intently, finally spoke. "Martha, I won't pretend that your words don't challenge me. I've always envisioned a certain type of life for Mark. But perhaps it's time for me to acknowledge that there are different ways to live a meaningful life." The conversation that followed was a turning point. Victoria shared her fears and expectations, and Martha listened, understanding the complexities of a mother's love. It was a dialogue marked by honesty and vulnerability, a step towards mutual respect and understanding. Martha's transformation into a confident, assertive individual was evident in her ability to stand her ground, to speak her mind with grace and strength. This was not the timid girl who had entered the Williams world. This was a woman who knew her worth and was not afraid to assert it. The conversation ended with a tentative truce, a recognition that while differences remained, there was a willingness to bridge them. Martha had not only asserted her place in the Williams family, but had also opened the door for a new kind of relationship with Victoria, one built on honesty and respect. This confrontation, this resurrection of Martha's spirit, marked a new chapter in her life. She had faced her greatest challenge and had emerged not just unscathed, but stronger, more assured, and ready to carve out her place in her new world alongside Mark as an equal and respected partner. As the final guests departed from the Williams estate, marking the end of the wedding celebrations, Martha stood beside Mark, hand in hand, gazing out at the horizon, where the setting sun painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson. In this moment of tranquility, Martha reflected on the incredible journey she had undertaken, a journey that had brought her to this point, standing at the threshold of a new life. Her reflections were a tapestry of emotions and experiences. From the humble walls of St. Mary's Orphanage to the grandeur of the Williams estate, Martha's life had been a journey of discovery and growth. Each challenge she had faced, each fear she had overcome, had been a stepping stone towards finding her true place and purpose. The confrontation with Victoria, though difficult, had been a cathartic experience, paving the way for a new understanding and mutual respect within the family. Martha felt a deep sense of fulfillment, not just in resolving the tensions, but in affirming her worth and her place in the Williams family. As she stood there, Martha realized that her true home was not a place, but a feeling, a sense of belonging and acceptance that she had found with Mark. Her love for him had been the guiding light through her journey, and now, as his wife, she looked forward to building a future together. This future was not just a continuation of Mark's world. It was a new world they would create together, blending their experiences, dreams, and values. Martha's anticipation for the future was filled with excitement and optimism. She envisioned a life where she could continue her passion for nursing, bringing her compassion and care to those in need, while also embracing her role in the Williams family. She saw herself and Mark as partners in every sense, supporting each other's aspirations and dreams. As the evening drew to a close, Martha felt a profound sense of peace. She had navigated the complexities of love and identity, had faced her fears, and had emerged with a stronger sense of self. The doubts and insecurities that had once clouded her mind were now replaced by a clear vision of who she was and what she wanted in life. The story of Martha's journey, from an orphan girl dreaming of a life beyond the orphanage walls to a confident woman who had found her place in the world, was a testament to her resilience, her courage, and her capacity for love. It was a journey that spoke of the power of self-discovery and the transformative nature of love. As Martha and Mark walked back into the estate, hand in hand, they stepped into their future together, a future that was bright with promise and potential. Martha had not only found her place in the world, but she had also found her true home in the love she shared with Mark, in the family they would build, and in the life they would create together.